that was bad. That was really bad.
Yeah.
Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, and Joy Behar of The View had a discussion about the eclipse from the other day, and they said some things that were, at best, very questionable. Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur get into this. We'll play the clip of what was said on The View. We'll get into what Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur had to say, and I will share my own thoughts. So first of all, let's take a look at this clip from The View with Sunny Hostin.
So here's more of Hostin's embarrassing moment as her co-host tried to reel her back in as she says something that's wholly inaccurate. Let's watch.
I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming. Cicadas.
Although I love
for the first time.
Cicadas, that's her first mistake here. Cicadas. I've never heard it pronounced cicadas. Whoopi Goldberg is right. It's cicadas.
I'm in like
No.
100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read. Two different times.
Two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad
But
cicadas.
for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well,
So Whoopi Goldberg is mostly right with what she's saying here. There's two different types. One comes every 17 years and another comes every 13 years. So she's correct about that. But we're going to see here Sunny Hostin is completely wrong with what she says.
well, that's not what I read, but maybe you know better. But
in a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists,
That's more
or
the
something
point.
is really
returning.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate.
So my first question that I would have about this, she just says, well, that's not what I read. Sort of like, well, that's just your opinion, man. This is a major broadcast show. They would presumably have fact checkers who work there that they could check these things with. I would presume she would also have, each of them would have an earpiece with an engineer, not an engineer, a producer in their ear who could be like, no, that's not right. This is the correct thing. So do they not have anybody? They're just, it's just like it's people talking down at the bar who have no idea what they're talking about. This is really strange to me.
Climate change. It's underground. They can't. I don't think it happens, and the eclipse. They've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen. So all these folks who are saying, it's a sign from God. God doesn't give you warning.
Oh, that was bad. That was really bad.
Yeah.
Look, the eclipse has nothing to do with climate change.
Zero.
Earthquake has nothing to do with climate change. What are we doing?
So guys, politics unfortunately is a lot about fear. Both sides use fear to drive votes. It's unfortunately the most effective way to drive votes. And so, the Republicans tell you, oh my God, the immigrants are coming and they're going to destroy the country and they're going to take over the country and it's an invasion. You should be really afraid. The terrorists are coming, the Muslims are coming, the gay people are coming, the trans people are coming into the bathroom, into your schools, and fear, right? And on the left, we have other things that drives fear. Number one for the Democratic leadership is Trump. Trump's a boogeyman. Oh my God, he's coming. He's got fear. And one of it is climate change. Now, in the case of climate change, it is enormously real. You actually should be a little bit afraid of that one, maybe a lot afraid of that one, but it coincides with Democratic politics. But you should never use it for fear mongering, especially if you're in media. I get it, I get the politicians, but our job is to call out the politicians that are using it in that context. But Sunny Hostin and a lot of folks in the mainstream establishment Democrat crowd, there's no off switch on fear mongering. So
here I would disagree with Cenk Uygur here. I definitely agree with him about the fear mongering in politics, especially about, all these different groups are coming to get you and all of that. This doesn't sound to me like fear mongering on the part of Sunny Hostin and, to a lesser degree in this particular case, Whoopi Goldberg. I don't want to sound cruel, but I would just say they're not all that bright. At least in this case. I mean, this is somebody that doesn't know how to pronounce cicada, is throwing out information just based on what she believes or what she's heard when she has access to fact checkers and producers who could check all of these things for her. I wonder if this is something that she just threw out, or did they have a meeting where they said, oh, I'm going to talk about how earthquakes and eclipses are part of climate change, brought on by climate change. I just can't, it's hard to imagine to me that there wouldn't be somebody who'd be like, you can't say that, that's idiotic. But they went ahead and did it. So I didn't see this as fear-mongering per se.
That's why she's going to earthquakes, eclipses, cicadas, etc., having to do with climate change. That didn't have anything to do with climate change. Tons of things. We tell you here, the hurricanes, the extreme storms, the rising of the oceans, etc., are related to climate change because they're driven by the hot temperatures and the hot water and the oceans cooling, etc.
Right.
But earthquakes, nothing to do with it. Eclipse, we told you eclipses have been coming. We know the patterns for hundreds of years now, having nothing to do with climate.
And they're completely right. It has absolutely, an eclipse has absolutely nothing to do with climate change. It's hard for me to imagine somebody on national television saying something so stupid.
Climate change. So you ruin all credibility when you use climate change for fear-mongering on just political causes when you're wrong.
And what it does.
And they lose credibility when they say something like this that they're obviously completely wrong about, that anyone can look this up and check it out if they don't already understand that eclipses aren't caused by climate change. So then they look this up and say, oh, if it's somebody maybe who trusts the people on The View, which are not younger people watching this, it's older people, but if they trust what's being said on The View, and they're like, oh, they were completely wrong about this, what else are they wrong about?
Is it makes viewers who are informed about what actually causes an eclipse or what actually causes an earthquake to hear what Hostin is saying there and really question whether they've been lied to about the severity of climate change or whether there have been lies about climate change being tied to other things that it wasn't actually tied to, right? And I agree with you, Cenk. Obviously, there is reality behind climate change, but you start losing trust among your audience.
I think it's, as much as anything, it's that we get so much misinformation now like this, like what she's saying about cicadas and earthquakes and eclipses in relation to climate change, and then people just throw up their hands and say, I don't know what to believe about anything.
When you tie climate change to things that you really have no business tying it to. So as we know, the eclipse that occurred today that made a lot of news, people were talking about it all day, has to do with the moon passing between the sun and the earth, and it temporarily blocks the sun. That has nothing to do with climate change. Climate change has nothing to do with earthquakes. Earthquakes are caused by a sudden movement along faults within the earth.
So some of this is why people are no longer getting their information from sources like this. If they can't do a better job than this checking their facts and having their hosts say factual things, then people aren't going to believe these shows or watch them anymore. As I say, network television is being watched by much older people. Younger people are getting their information from YouTube and TikTok and other sources online. So who do you think is right here? Do you agree with Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur, or do you somehow think that Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg are correct? I don't know how they possibly would be. They really look incredibly foolish and dumb here in this particular instance. But let me know what you think. Make sure to give me a comment on this, give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.